Hello and welcome to the Emma's for Mama podcast. I'm your host, Abbie Halberstadt, happy wife, mama to 10, Bible-believing Christian. And on today's episode, we're going to tackle a topic that I think every woman needs to hear about, learning more about the way our pelvic floor structure works and about prolapse and about ways to recover from both of those things, and even more about just how uniquely made our female bodies are by God and how they are made to heal. And I think that this is going to benefit, like I said, every woman, but especially I'm getting lots of requests from moms and wives for this information. And so I'm really encouraging you to listen today. I love how our guest on this podcast breaks it down so easily for each woman to listen to and provides resources. So stay tuned for that. First up, I want to highlight one of our podcast sponsors, Voetberg Music Academy. We are longtime friends with Elisha and Katie Voetberg, and our son Simon enjoys using their music lessons for guitar. They also have ukulele, violin, piano, and mandolin. You can learn online, but you have 24-hour access to your instructor, live onboarding calls, and practical ways to learn more through their printables and their quizzes. They have all kinds of other resources, and you can use the code M is for Mama 20. I'll put that in the show notes at voetbergmusicacademy.com for 20% off every month that you're enrolled, which brings your price per month for multiple siblings using the same account down to around $30 a month, which is an incredible savings. Next up, I want to talk about christianbook.com. It is your home for everything homeschool. They strive to have the best prices on name brands that you recognize, like Abeka, like Apologia, like Story of the World, like Saxon Math, like BJU Press. And we have used all of those in our home and loved them. They also have a dedicated homeschool curriculum staff that can answer your questions and give you unbiased direction in what curricula would work best for your family. So check out christianbook.com for everything you need to do with homeschooling. And the last podcast sponsor I want to highlight is Christian Healthcare Ministries. We've been with them for over 6 years in our family, and they help you to break away from the traditional insurance model if that's something you want to do, and find options that work for your unique family's priorities and budget. If you're interested in finding out more details about their organization, you can check out chministries.org. Okay, friends, I have such a helpful and, if not fun to be around. The topic is not necessarily the most fun, but I have found Jenn to be delightful. This is actually our third attempt to record this interview because my internet would not cooperate. And we tried valiantly, and Jenn was very patient with me. And so I'm so glad that you have had the wherewithal and the kindness and the forbearance to come back and be on the show. Welcome, Jenn. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Abbie.
Well, and one of the reasons why I wanted to persevere in this is I feel like it is such a needed topic for all women, but especially for moms who are my primary audience. And a lot of the moms that I minister to, not all of them, but a lot of them have had multiple births. And so our topic today is pelvic floor health. Tell us a little bit about your company, its name, how you got into it, just all that good stuff, Jenn.
Well, my name is Jenn Lormand, and I am half of Tinkler,
which is a great name.
Thank you. A client of ours named it for us. My business partner, Christina Walsh, is a physical therapist, and I am an exercise physiologist. I have been living and dealing with stage 2 prolapse of all 3 pelvic compartments for over 10 years now. And Christina and myself did a not so little thing. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We did some medical research because along my own journey of trying to figure out how to reboot my pelvic floor and get things working again, I decided we should do some medical research. I had found this protocol, or rather this exercise tool that Christina and I had started using with clients. I started feeling better. My clients started feeling better. And it begged the question, okay, what is better? Christina and I are super nerdy when it comes to data. And we wanted to, from the bottom of our hearts, ethically be able to look women in the eyes and say, okay, if you follow this particular protocol for X amount of time, you can expect these results. So we decided to do a medical research study. We were blessed to be published in several different journals. And this ended up becoming an online program named Tighten Your Tinkler.
I love it. So I love that you just kind of casually said, I've been living with a stage 2, or what's the right word? Is that the right word?
Stage 2
Yeah,
prolapse,
stage 2
yes.
prolapse. I can't remember what the word, I was trying to think of a different word for stage, but that's right. Um, Prolapse in all 3 possible ways to have it for 10 years. I think a lot of women think of a prolapse diagnosis as a bit of a death sentence to normalcy in their lives. Can you speak into why that might not be the case for a lot of women?
Well, I can confidently say that that is not the case. Prolapse, if you want me to go ahead and define that, because some
Yes,
women
please.
might not understand what that is. Prolapse is the falling down and in of the pelvic organs into the pelvic compartments. And so this can be caused, most of the times, it's caused by childbirth. And so for me, that means my bladder, my uterus, and my rectum are all falling down and into one another in those pelvic compartments. Every woman's case of prolapse is unique. And the great news that we're going to talk about today is that you don't have to accept this as your new normal. And there are things that you can do to get your body to continue to support you and function as God has designed our bodies to do.
Absolutely. And I want to chime in and say that while I did not have any symptoms or evidence of prolapse until after my last 2 kids, who were my second set of twins, and it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of babies to carry. They were 5'4" and 6'15", I believe. So they were, there's the pretty full size babies in there, full term babies. And my other set of twins were both like 6'4" and 7 pounds. So you're looking at lots of pressure, lots of weight to carry. And so it's not surprising that I did start to experience symptoms after my 9th and 10th children. And it was kind of scary. I was actually doing pull-up training, and that intra-abdominal pressure from pulling up so hard was what revealed, because otherwise I was
Yes.
pretty functional. So go into a pelvic floor therapist, which was a total provision from the Lord, because I didn't know anybody, and there wasn't really anybody in my area that I would have entrusted myself to before that, and wasn't actively looking. And then I had a friend that was like, you should see this girl. She's great. She turned out to be fantastic. My friends and I affectionately call her the pelvic floor fairy. And so I did 6 months of PT with her, and downgraded from a stage 3 to a stage 2, basically non-symptomatic, fully functional, can do anything that I want to do. That's not going to be everybody's story, but I just wanted to say that as an encouragement, that this is coming from a place of really wanting to offer you guys wisdom from Jenn and Christina, right? Christina, is that right?
Yes, Christina's my business partner.
And wanting you to have resources, because I know how valuable those resources were to me. Now, you guys aren't doing in-person evaluations like my physical therapist was, but tell me about kind of how you do approach in a way that can benefit every woman.
Yeah. So, what we do in terms of a diagnostic is we encourage women, if any of the symptoms that we talk about today sound like that might be you, is to go and take our 5-minute quiz. That's going to be quite eye-opening, and it will help connect the dots around all of the different symptoms that you may be experiencing that are actually connected to this, because the symptoms are pain. Now, that could be back pain, that could be side of the hip pain, front of the hip pain. It could be pain with intimacy. It could be pee leaks, which is the thing that most women think of. Pee
Yeah.
leaks with jumping, sneezing, coughing, laughing, or pee leaks with that gotta go urgency, like all of a sudden you feel like you need to go, and if you don't get to a bathroom soon, you're going to have an accident.
Yeah.
It could be that you're peeing more than 10 times a day, so bladder frequency. Obviously, the things that you discussed, which is that downward pressure and heaviness, either in the vaginal opening itself or in the lower abdominals. Some women, talk about getting this pooch that they can't get rid of and feeling heaviness there. It can also mean passing gas without control, or losing control over your bowels, or feeling like you're not after you use the restroom, after you have a bowel movement, you're wiping and wiping and wiping, and there's still more there. Because when you have a rectocele or that rectal prolapse, that rectum can fall down and out and actually turn outward, where it can be just a nasty problem. So you feel like you smell down there, lots of things. We have a great YouTube video on this specific topic because some of these issues are things that women don't even want to Google because it's
Right.
so embarrassing.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm just laughing at my poor 18-year-old son who is getting all kinds of information. He's my editor and he's just going to have a blast with this episode. Well, he'll just go to a happy place and we'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. So, you talked about those symptoms. You talked about kind of what you guys do as far as a diagnostic tool. I think you've told me, again, we've had this conversation a couple times in an effort to give this information to people, that you have both paid resources and free resources. Can you talk about those?
Yes. Yes. We have a ton of free resources because more than anything, Christina and I really got into this to try to educate women that there are other options out there
Yeah.
besides kegels, besides having to be manipulated internally or manipulating yourself with devices. So we have, if you're dealing with the chronic back and hip pain, if you go to our website, there's a resource page where you can download a free, we call it our 90-90 decompression. So it's a position, we call it like our little self-adjustment cheat that helps to decrease downward pressure.
Mm,
It helps to alleviate back pain. And we also teach you diaphragmatic breath work. So you
which
get
is
a
so,
one,
so
two,
key.
three. Yes, it's very important. A 1, 2, 3 punch for free that even if you just start implementing that daily, it's going to calm down much of the symptoms that you're dealing with.
I love that
We
y'all offer that.
also, for women who are dealing with pain with intimacy, like myself after my third birth, I didn't know how to talk to my husband about this
Hmm.
because you don't want to hurt their feelings.
Right.
And yet inside your body, as you're supposed to have this act of love happening, it's an act of anxiety.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we have a free resource, our intimacy guide, which walks you through some journal prompts as to how to have this conversation with your husband and how to help them understand what you're dealing with and not take this personally.
I
So
love
we
that
have
y'all
that
have
as
that.
a free resource. Um, I'm trying to think. We also have some pelvic floor do's and don'ts on our website.
And
We have a
Kegels would
ton
be
of,
one of them, right?
yes, no kegels.
So I know
And
that
we
there's a
just,
lot of women out there that are probably like, wait a minute. I thought Kegels were like the gold standard. And if I just did them, then I wouldn't pee on myself when I sneezed or whatever. And then they find often that that's not true. But they don't know where to go. So talk to me about the difference between hypotonic and hypertonic.
yes. Well, so with prolapse, most women are dealing with some of both of those things. So hypotonic is, or hypertonic, I should say, is when the pelvic bowl is overly tight. So,
Describe to me what a
it,
pelvic bowl is. I think a lot of women will be like, I have a bowl in my pelvic floor. I don't know what you mean.
yes. So your pelvic bowl or your pelvic floor is a bowl of musculature. So you have connections from the front of the pelvis to the back of the pelvis and side to side. It's a complete bowl. And so you can imagine your pelvic organs sit inside of this bowl. And if they are falling down, that's going to create, I always liken it to the example of placing a bowling ball on a mattress for 9 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
During pregnancy, and then you pick up that bowling ball, there's going to be a dent there, right? There's going to be a weakening of those springs. Well, that's like your pelvic bowl. And so depending upon the position of the baby, the way you delivered, all of these different things, you can have tightness on some parts of the pelvic bowl, but that also is weakness. So, one of the things that I always like to tell our new moms is if you suspect that you have a hypertonic pelvic floor or you've been told that you have one, it's really important that you check your pubic joint. We have this on our resource page, a free tutorial of how to check this. And if you find that it's tender, you need to go and see a Webster certified chiropractor. This is a chiropractor who's been specially trained to gently readjust this joint that, many times comes out of alignment during pregnancy or post delivery because we have all that relaxin in our
Yeah.
system. So it's important that you get that adjusted, because if not, your body is literally going to keep having these muscle spasms or struggle with this hypertonicity because you have a sublux joint. You have a joint that's out of alignment. And so this is how the body compensates for that. So that's really important as a step one if you suspect that you have a hypertonic or an overly tight pelvic floor. Symptoms of this can look like dribbling pee, either during intimacy, post intimacy, or you dribble pee when you stand up after you peed. That's a very common symptom. Other ones can be, you've never leaked pee before, and now all of a sudden you are leaking pee at random times. It's not necessarily when you're coughing, sneezing, jumping, laughing, but you're randomly dribbling this pee, or you're noticing that all of a sudden pain with sex, and that hadn't happened before.
Yeah.
All of these things can be due to having that hypertonicity, and more specifically, that pubic joint being out of alignment is normally what we find the culprit to be of that.
And that is something that I get asked about constantly, is kind of when do you feel normal again? How do you feel normal again? And I think there's so many people that don't necessarily even know exactly what they're asking, because I certainly didn't know any of this when I was 25, 29, 32. Like this is in more recent years that I've gotten more informed and educated. So I feel like just there's going to be a lot of moms out there that are nodding and saying like, "Oh my goodness, like that's me. I didn't even know I should be looking for these things."
Yes. Well, or maybe they feel overwhelmed because they are experiencing so many things. And unfortunately, we get emails in our inbox all the time that they've approached their OBGYN with some of these things, and they're kind of brushed off and made to
Mhm.
feel like, look, this is just the way it's going to be. This is normal. You just need to accept this
Right.
and
And I've
move
heard
on with
this
life.
phrase a lot lately that I appreciate, especially in the holistic community. This is common, but it's not normal. Just because
Correct.
something happens often does not mean it's the way your body should optimally function, right?
Absolutely. Our God is a very good God, and He designed our bodies to heal. And that's, one of the beautiful things about the protocol that Christina and I use is we call it the gentle nudge that sometimes our body needs to reboot some of these dormant muscles and be
Mhm.
able to function the way that our bodies were designed. It's very common during the end stages of pregnancy for glutes to kick off, for deep abdominals to kick off, and you end up post delivery having some muscular imbalances. But ideally, your pelvic floor never works in isolation. It's never just working by itself, which is why kegels don't work.
Yeah.
There's a better way that we know now.
Yeah. Yeah. And talk to me a little bit about, because you've offered all kinds of diagnostic tools and suggestions and ways to kind of move forward to feeling fewer symptoms. Talk to me about some of the paid things that you have in your program that help to take it even a step further.
Yeah, so we've definitely offered a lot of band-aid fixes. If you're in this feedback loop of pain and discomfort, you can take action today with some of those free resources and get some relief. If you're looking to get to the root cause of this stuff, our signature program is really where it's at. We've got a community, a private community where Christina and I are in there once a month doing live coaching, answering your questions. You can also gain inspiration from other women who have already walked this path. It's a beautiful little space on the internet. There's not many left, but
Yeah.
this one
Yeah.
is one of the beautiful spaces. And we walk you through video tutorials of our proprietary protocol, which is 10 minutes a day. You can
Mm.
do it with your clothes on. You can do it in front of your children. A lot of our moms do it with their children.
Yeah.
And it is a way that you can build strength functionally to be able to get to live like you and myself. Most days I forget that I have stage 2
Yeah.
prolapse.
Yeah. Same.
And that is our wish for all moms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that you say with your clothes on, because I do get messages from people that are like, okay, I hear you went through physical therapy. Did you have to do any internal work? The answer for me is yes. Did you, although my wonderful pelvic floor fairy, I felt completely safe with. That would not have been the case for all care providers for sure. And I would have been very uncomfortable and I would have been refusing that option. But I love that you have taken the dignity of these moms, all women really, because it's not just moms that experience these issues, but the dignity of these women into account to give them options that aren't invasive, that aren't going to feel, in some cases, shameful. It depends on where you're coming from. Like someone with a particular background of abuse, or like you were talking about before with me before we started this podcast, traumatic birth, or things like that. This is not a topic that you want to engage with both your eyes open, because you're like, this sounds scary, this sounds painful, but you're already dealing with things that feel scary and painful. So I love the gentle approach that you guys have to this.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it is a very heart-centered calling and mission to really just accompany women through this. It's a real gift and blessing.
So I know that before when we talked, I feel like I remember saying kind of, if you end up in a situation where you're dealing with a healthcare provider that's kind of blowing you off, um, and maybe say they do your program and they see improvement, but they've still got questions or still got concerns. I think you told me kind of who you need to engage with next, even if an OBGYN doesn't tell you.
Yes. So the best person, if you suspect that you have prolapse and if your personality is one like, I need a diagnosis, I need something concrete to know where I'm starting from, you really need to go see a urogynecologist. On our YouTube channel, we have 3 different videos that talk about 3 things that your OBGYN isn't really checking you for properly. Prolapse is one of them, and a separation of your abdominal muscles is another,
So
which is
that's
another
called,
freebie,
yeah.
a DR.
Yeah,
Yes.
diastasis recti, and that's something that so many moms have. And I'll just say that if, and I'm sure you guys with your diagnostic tool say this, if you lie down and pull your heels up to your butt and do a very slight crunch and put your fingers down in the kind of the line that runs down the middle of you, and
Yeah.
you can feel significant separation, especially if it's deep, then that's an indication that you possibly have diastasis recti and it needs to be addressed with some of the things that you're talking about, but also diaphragmatic breathing. Yeah. So
Yep.
those are
Yep.
also good.
Yes. And we also do offer a free tutorial of how to do that. So we have a video of that as well. But you
Fantastic.
need to see a urogynecologist. They're the ones who are going to be able to diagnose this and refer to, if you're looking to go the route of women's health PT, they would be the one that would be able to write you that referral, write you that script to get this covered by insurance. The caveat to that is, unfortunately, insurance has cut way back on how many of these sessions they will cover.
Mm.
And it's unfortunate.
Well, I love that you have affordable options like you guys, where you can do it in the comfort of your own home, clothed. I did jump in and interrupt you, which I apologize with my
No.
interjection, but you were saying that they don't check properly for prolapse, for diastasis recti, and one more.
Uh, I think that was it.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's just DR and prolapse.
Yeah.
And the main thing that I want to say is, if you suspect prolapse, you really need to be examined standing up with gravity acting on your
Yep.
body.
Yep. Yeah. And I definitely, my PT did make sure to do that. She would even have me put my foot up on a block
Yes.
to kind of create
And
that
bear down.
imbalance. Yeah. And bear down. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And which is what any good PT should be doing, because they can't just look at you and they can't, yeah, like they've got to have certain diagnostics. Like I said, I'm so grateful that I got to have such a good personalized experience, but I can't tell you how many people that when I mentioned that I was going to have you on were like, when is that episode coming out? I need that episode last month, and we're so excited. So I know that they're going to get a lot of hope and a lot of encouragement and a lot of education from what you've been telling them, because this is just something most people do not have. I think the average woman, and myself included for many years, doesn't have a basic good understanding of the internal workings of our musculature and the way our bones are set up, and like what the transverse abdomen. They're like, "What? My abs? Are you talking about my six pack?" And I'm like, "No, actually, I'm not. I'm talking about what's underneath your, that kind of thing." And so I love that you're educating them on that as well. Can you talk? I know one of the things that scared me the most when I tried to Google diagnose myself, or like years ago when I didn't have any symptoms, and who knows whether I actually did have prolapse, but I was extremely functional, so it didn't matter so much, at least to me at that time. One of the things that I remember looking up was that if you have prolapse, you're immediately going to have surgery and have this mesh put in. Can you talk about that? Because
Mm.
I think that's really scary for women to hear. It was for me.
It's very scary, and quite honestly, my own diagnosis, that's what was told to me, is that my only option is going to be surgery. And that's really what convicted my heart to go, okay, Lord, we're going to try everything else possible, and
Yeah,
that's like the last option. Um I think it really just depends on which stage you are at. Obviously, stage 4, if you're at stage 4, you've got the organs that are now protruding outside of your body,
hmm,
you are a better candidate for surgery. But I would say, even if you do go down that road, you do go see your urogynecologist and you are told that you need surgery, I pray that you will think what I thought, in that you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, to try some
100%.
other holistic protocols to see what your body is capable of.
Yes.
And, mindset is such a big deal here, to remember that our bodies are trying to do their best to support us, and to just get into that space of, okay, Lord, I know you created my body for healing. I know I'm not broken. Please help me to be grateful for what my body is doing right now to
Yeah.
support me. Because I promise, when you get into that mindset and that space, there is a shift that happens
Yes.
internally.
Yeah.
And, it provides hope, and hope is a really big deal for healing.
100%. It reminds me a lot of what my midwives would tell me about birth, impending birth. Like the mindset with which you approach this, the hope that you have of seeing that baby, in this case, the hope of being able to walk and run with your kids, or, in my case, I'm back to doing pull-up training. And I love that my PT was like, "No, I'm not going to tell you you're never going to do this again. We will see how this goes. We will work toward it with the confidence that we can, make improvements enough that you might be able to do this again, or will be doing this again." And so that really helped my mindset not to be one of despair and defeat, which a lot of times keeps us from persevering. And the Bible talks
Yes.
about this. It talks about this concept that suffering produces perseverance, which produces character,
Yes.
which produces hope, and hope does not disappoint. And I don't think it's just talking about metaphysical things. That affects every area of our lives for sure.
Amen to that. I completely agree. And I mean, yeah, just hope is just crucial.
Hmm.
Crucial.
Hmm. In every aspect of our lives, but I love that you're weaving that into this story as well. Okay, Jen, tell us where they can find your program. Tell us about a discount code you have for us, I hear, and just anything else you want to share with us.
So they can find us on YouTube for sure at Tighten Your Tinkler. We have like loads, hundreds of videos there. Like, if you're a nerd like us and you want to understand the anatomy or the symptoms, go there. You'll find a video for the topic that you're looking for. I can almost guarantee that. And then for our resource page, which is quite robust, go to tightenyourtinkler.com /support.
Okay, great. And then to order your program, is that at the right place or the same place?
You can also find that you can take the quiz on our website, and you can also join our signature program. We have a special coupon code for Abbie. It's Mama50. That's MAMA50 for $50 off of our signature program.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys offering my listeners that. And I know that that will be a huge blessing to them. Jenn, thank you so much for taking the time yet again to come on here and talk with us and share with us and educate us. I really appreciate you.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah,
just as a caveat, if you have an HSA or FSA account, our program does qualify for that. So you can use those cards. And we also have a 3-payment option to try to help spread that cost out.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, I appreciate you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Abbie.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoy the M is for Mama podcast, I would be so honored if you would subscribe and follow along, maybe share with friends, or even leave a review. And if you want more content on motherhood and biblical responses to cultural issues, be sure to follow along on Instagram at m.is.for.mama.